Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero. Our guest today is Joe Solo, a producer, composer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist who makes music for TV and film, for video and video games. He makes music for celebration and meditation, for your work or your workout, for everywhere from the arena to the cabana. If we take just his clients who go by initials, you get HBO, BMG, CBS, The OC, NBC, MLB, and MTV. That is to say that he makes a lot of music that we hear in a lot of places, before we even mention his work with artists like Fergie and Macy Gray. He has lately been on a mission to share his knowledge with other songwriters by offering music success workshops, including Joe Solo's Malibu Beach House Music Success Retreat, which takes place September 6th through 9. And if you want to attend a retreat for songwriters, bands, producers, DJs, and managers in a damn sweet location, you can go to musiccareersuccess.com and reserve a spot. There are only 30 spots and it will sell out. So go now, musiccareersuccess.com. Meanwhile, he's been on the show before, so I know many of you already love him, but you're going to love him some more. Here's our guest today, Joe Solo.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay
This
Moore.
is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Moranis.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hey, record producer Joe Solo here. And if you want to get some free tips on how to advance your career, go to joesolo.com on the Break It Down show, and let's let the show begin.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Yeah, let's let the show begin for sure. So Joe is a friend of mine. We met him at NAMM, hashtag NAMM 2019, I guess we would say for this episode. And Joe does a lot to give back to the community. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, Joe, was to share your knowledge, because you bring so much to the table in terms of helping someone who's trying to figure out a music career get off the ground. Whether they're an artist, a producer, whatever it's going to be, you've got a lot of insight. And the reason why I bring that in is like your kid comes to you and says, I want to be a rock star. And you're like, well, you can't do that. Joe would say, you can, and then let me help you do it. So this is how you get your kid oriented towards a career in music. And that's sort of the theme behind this. Plus, Joe's got a million great stories, and he bought me free lunch a while back. And he's so popular, they gave him free lunch. So that's kind of a funny thing. We went over to, what was that restaurant called, Joe?
That was Mendocino Farms in Marina Del Rey. I eat there almost every day for lunch, and they have this thing called Fan of the Day. And when Pete and I walked in, there was my name on the Fan of the Day board. And whoever Fan of the Day is, they buy lunch for everybody.
Yeah.
I told Pete I'd treat him.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm a giver.
The best free lunch ever.
Yeah.
To be fair, you offered to buy lunch before you knew it was going to be free. So it was just one of those serendipitous moments.
Yeah.
But hey, I want to talk to you about the music business in general. I guess to establish some bona fides for you. You worked with Macy Gray for 15 years leading up to the point where she broke out and became an international star. You've worked with, Fergie, all kinds of people. You've also done a lot of professional work in music, on commercials, those kinds of things. So you spend a lot of time working on producing and creating music. In a typical day when you're working, how many hours do you sit there and work on creating music?
The other day somebody asked me what is the average number of hours it takes to produce a broadcast quality, finished, well-seasoned produced master. And the average is 125 hours for a 4-minute song.
Wow.
Now, it depends on the style too. If I'm doing something more hip-hoppy, it's not nearly as much because a lot of it is programming in the beatbox. So I'm not miking live drums and doing, horn sections and live orchestral sections. And the rappers, if their flow is together, usually in just a couple takes, they nail it. So it's a lot less for that, or for EDM music, it's a lot less. Typical pop or rock song, anything that's going to be like on pop radio, you're looking at 125 hours, give or take. And that is what it takes.
And that's 125 hours total, or is that 125 of your hours?
Well, it's the same thing. Well, assuming I'm hands-on for the whole project, it's 125 hours in the studio. But there's also, well, once I take on a project, it becomes my baby too. And so I live with the material and I think about it and ponder it, and it loops around in my brain when I'm not in the studio, which is where a lot of the work is done. So I don't really count those hours or track those hours, but it's a lot. And then also you figure in any production, there's going to be a certain amount of time you spend just on the phone arranging sessions, pulling in session musicians if need be, talking with the artists about, how they feel it's going and where they feel it needs to go, and, all kinds of stuff. And that adds up to, that probably adds another 10 or 20 hours to the whole thing. Not per song, but like per project. So it's a real commitment. Sometimes I'll have one of my co-producers do maybe 80% of the song. So like I'll flesh it out in the beginning and I'll oversee the vocals. I'll produce the vocals, hand it over to my co-producer, and then he or she will fill it out, and then I'll come in at the end of the mix and do the mastering. And then in that case, I'm spending maybe 30 hours on the song. So,
Right. When you're out of the studio and that thing is bouncing around in your head, where do you commonly go, or when does the song part of it gel together for you where you're like, yep, that's why I do this? Like for me, oftentimes after a nap or during the shower, part of what I'm working on will congeal into something I can use, and then I'm just waiting to add these little gumdrops together into whatever I'm creating.
Well, for me, I'm never surprised, because this is the way it almost always goes down. It congeals in the last 3 or 4 minutes with a couple little final tweaks of the mastering or the mix that just glues it all together. And until that happens, I'm not relaxed. I'm relaxed, but I'm not like done. So, it's like running a marathon. It's 26.2 miles. And when you're on mile 26 and you have 0.2 left to go, that's the hardest part of running a marathon. So I hear. I've never ran one myself. But, but that's the one where you have to summon all of your strength just to get through that last 0.2. And if you peter out then, no offense, Peter. All right. If you burn out then, at mile 26, even though it's an amazing accomplishment that you did almost the entire marathon, you'll feel like a failure the rest of your life. Why didn't I pull it together? So, for me, when everything is just dialed in right and it's undeniable, and when I say dialed in right, I don't just mean technically and from an engineering perspective, but dialed in so that it touches hearts when people hear the song, so that the story or the emotion of the lyric moves people in whatever way they're supposed to be moved. That's when it's done.
Yeah, that magic moment where you have created an emotion with the song. This is a big thing of that we've learned through the show. Is it's one thing to create something, and I guess this is a bigger question, and I'll get there in a sec. Bear with me. But let's say you're going to write a book, or you're going to write 12 songs that are going to become an album. Like, that's part of it. And for sure, monumental, a life-defining achievement if you write your own stuff and make an album. But then you have to sell the album, or someone has to sell the album for you. I know for writing a book, an author who's not established with a huge audience that's going to sell 10,000 copies, that person has to go out and build that audience. And that, to me, is significantly harder because you have to do things you're not used to that don't appear to pay off. all over the country, and you've got to just hit the road and work that book hard. And when you get sick of working the book, you got to still work that book hard. I can't imagine that an album is any different.
Well, you know, a lot of the art, I develop a lot of up and coming artists, a lot of new artists. That's sort of my specialty, is helping them find their signature sound. And they're often asking during the process, okay, afterwards, what happens? What are we going to do? How are we going to sell this? How are we going to sell this? And I say, let's not really think about that till we know what we have. Let's finish the project first and then know what we have. Kind of like you can't really decide your baby's going to go to Harvard or Yale or Berklee College of Music while they're still in the womb. You got to get to know the baby. So first we have to birth the baby, and then we deal with selling it. This I do know is that, in a world of 8 billion people, there is a market for every conceivable style of music that's ever been created and ever will be created. So if you're doing cowpunk opera with hip-hop beats and kazoos, somewhere, if done right, if done well, done with heart and passion, somewhere you're going to find a market for that.
Okay.
And if anybody does want to pursue that sound, you can email me at info@joesolo.com.
Yeah, and I want to for sure get into the valuable tools that you've created. But I sort of want to spend some time illustrating the challenges of the landscape.
Oh, yeah.
Because having a hook or having a great, 70-word poem that is a lyric, that's just tiny pieces of this body of work. I mean, we're talking, thousands of hours. I mean, if you get up and write every day, most of the songs you write are not going to see the light of day. They're going to stay in your notebook, and you're going to go back to ones that seem to resonate, that pull that emotion out. When you hear someone's passion, when you hear their life's work, how do you, and I know you've explained this before at NAMM when you do your talks, but how do you say this has some legs and I can help them fix it versus this is just not good enough? There's too much to work there. Because that's the thing, is you want to help everybody, but you can only help some people. How do you determine that, Joe?
Wait, are you asking how do I determine what help they need, or how do I determine who to help with limited time?
Yeah, let's go with those questions in reverse order. So the limited time question, when you hear something and you have to say yes or no at some point, and then after that, follow that up with what are you helping them with?
As a business, I have to look at what budget, what it's going to take budget-wise for them to get what they want. It depends on how fast they want it too, and the quality level they want. For example, a quickie demo is going to be a lot less than a broadcast quality master. Thing is that I don't do demos. I only do masters. So I'll only take on somebody if they want to go all the way, because that's what you need nowadays. If you want to get your music placed in film or TV or commercials, it's got to be ready to go, ready for the radio, ready for the TV. That's my name on that production.
Sure.
In fact, one little piece of advice I have for people is either you get the absolute best recording that you can afford, or go with the jankiest acoustic guitar vocal to iPhone demo that you can. And that's because that demo doesn't purport to be a fuller, better recording, so people realize it's a demo. But when it's recorded halfway, but corners have been cut and the mix isn't there and the mastering isn't dialed in, and the production hasn't been fleshed out, and the takes are not fully passionate, then people go, well, I feel like it's missing something, So you either go all the way or just keep it real rough. Anyway, so I look at the budget that they have, and then I look at, and this is not in any particular order, And I look at who they are as a person, what their character is.
Oh, okay.
Because
Yeah.
because if I'm doing 5 songs with them and I'm going to spend 500 hours of my life in an intimate setting, working on music, putting my heart and soul into it, and taking time away from my kids and other loved ones, I better enjoy that person. I better enjoy being around that
Yeah.
person. And if they're a big jerkhole, I'm not really interested. I'm doing fine, so I don't need the money that bad. I want to enjoy the process. I want to enjoy the person. And a big part of what makes a great production is out of that relationship between producer and artist, or producer and band. A lot of the magic comes out of the trust and the depth of knowledge that we learn about each other, because it's a very vulnerable process. These people, they write songs about their life and their experiences and their worldview, and it means a lot to them. It means the world to them, and I respect that highly. And what happens is through getting to know them, I get to know their lyric and their message and their character through their music better. So it enables me to better deliver what they're hiring me to do, which is to take their music and make it larger than life and make sure they sound like a freaking star coming out of those speakers, and that the emotional content of the song reaches out of the speakers and into the ears and down into the heart of the listener. You can't really get there if you don't even like the person you're working with.
Yeah. I was listening to the Well podcast, Anson Mount, who plays Captain Pike on Star Trek Discovery on CBS. He was on the show. And before, on another episode of his show, he had on Exhibit. And Exhibit was talking about working with Dr. Dre. And Dre was producing his Exhibit's smash hit album.
Right.
And Dr. Dre doesn't have time. You, as a producer, don't have time to explain every single thing. When you hear it. And Dr. Dre is very meticulous. He'll go line by line, lyric by lyric through a song, and you might spend 20 hours in the studio. But he's going to produce that album. And so Exhibit was talking about, he would deliver part of the song, and then Dr. Dre would reach over, in the booth and say, "Do it again. Do it again.
Oh.
Do it harder.
Oh, yeah.
Do it again." And there was no you don't challenge it. You don't say, "I already gave it to you." You do it again, because Dr. Dre isn't going to, he's working on the actual production side of it. You must have some kind of, that must resonate with you.
Well, producing, a lot of people think producing is technical, but it's about 90% psychological. Psychological, spiritual, musical, human, all the things that aren't technical. Because you got to get the performance out of them. Sometimes I'm saying do it again, and they're all fine. And what I'm really trying to do is wear the artist down till they get to the point where they're saying, "Hey, don't we have it yet?" Once I got them there, then they're in a psychological state where, like, I don't know what this guy wants,
Right.
But damn it, I'm tired of this. I'm going to just give it my all. I'm just going to give him everything. Oh, and then the magic comes pouring out, and they're doing things that they didn't even know they had inside them to do. A lot of magic resides beyond their comfort level. So if I deem that as the technique to use to get the best take, that's the way we go. And then I still have all those other takes to draw from, and I often end up combining, portions of each take. I mean, I'll get surgical with it to where there might be a 3-syllable word, and I'll take the 3 syllables from 3 different takes and put them together, and all of a sudden there's this just total different feeling on that word. And really whatever it takes to deliver. And then other times you get someone who's so ready, so well trained in the studio. They don't have any pitch issues. They deliver it, and it's like the first through third take is their best, and everyone knows the magic was there and there's no more to do. So it depends on the person, really, on in terms of the psychological attack that I take to get the performance. And a lot of times, here's a kind of a neat technique, is rather than record the song in order, I'll have them do the vocals, different sections out of order, just to kind of stir things up a little bit. I might start with the bridge and have them work on the bridge for a while, and then go to the chorus, maybe the first chorus, and then we'll do all the choruses, staying in chorus flow for that day, and not even think about verses. And we'll go through a bunch of choruses, and by the time they get to the third and fourth chorus, they're so in flow and so the magic is just happening that I'm like, if we compare the first and the second chorus, or really just the first chorus, to the ones at the end, you're so much hotter now. I think since you're there, let's just go back and do a first chorus again really quick. And they're like, yeah, definitely. They nail that. And then I'm like, well, we still have one weak link in the chain. That's the second chorus. Let's make all of them, and then we knock out the second chorus. And then we'll break and take a day off or whatever and come back and then do a verse day and work on just the verses. And the same thing will happen where by the time we get to the end of the song, they're so in the groove that we go back and re-record the first and the second verse again. So a lot of times the song gets recorded multiple times before the magic takes are really there. But by staying in the flow of just one section at a time, they can really focus and get into that groove. Then also from a technical standpoint, I can dial in a slightly different tone or level or compression setting for different sections of the song, which helps add a subtle variation to the dynamics of the overall song.
Yeah.
So if I loosen up the compression and bring the levels down a little bit on the verses, and then I tighten up the compression and then bring the levels up for the choruses, when those choruses come out, the vocal is going to punch out and bam! Now that's just one of many things I'll do to distinguish between verse and chorus. And you can apply the same concept to the music, to the arrangement, many other things, and even to like the stereo width. Maybe when you're mixing, don't pan things so wide in the verses, and then when the chorus comes in, go full on hard right and left, and all of a sudden this wall of sound hits you. And by combining all these different dynamics between from section to section, you get much more interest throughout the song and more dynamics and more punch in the chorus. It's a technique I developed called multi-dimensional dynamic juxtaposition. And I go into that stuff at my retreats and stuff like that. It's a lot more involved than what I'm explaining right now.
But let's get into this a little bit. It's one thing to say, I'm going to go in my garage and I'm going to beat on this guitar till I'm proficient and I have a couple of good songs. And, now we have 10 good songs and now we're ready to go somewhere. But you've got a product called Make It Big in a Box that sort of helps someone reduce that time. And whether and honestly, and that's just not a sales pitch, I derive no financial benefit from this, but you have a subscription base where it's like you have access to all these tools, all these videos, and it's like you're getting a degree in how to make music in a short section of time. So Make It Big in a Box. Talk a little bit about how that works for someone who's like, yeah, I'm close. I need to get smarter in this business and how to do it.
Right. Well, in terms of subscribing to my list, it's free. That doesn't cost anything. I send out tips. I have a thing called the Music Success Video Nugget series, and also when you start out, you also get, well, your first video nugget is how to get your music in film and TV, which is a great place to break through. I also include a list of the 9 music career killing mistakes and how to avoid them. It would be
Well, that's
pretty cruel.
Talk about a couple of those. What are, just give me 3 of them at random.
Well, you got to sign up to see them, but I'll give you the first one. Just as a teaser, having your music on iTunes.
Okay.
Now that one.
So having it there is a killer because why?
Well, it depends on the situation, but a lot of people with no following whatsoever, no marketing plan, no marketing budget, no anything, finish the record and they go through some digital distributor and get on iTunes and all these other places, but they're not moving any units. And, they meet some A&R guy at a major label or whatever, and they're like, oh, yeah, I'm on iTunes. And the guy goes and checks it out and finds out there's 12 people bought the record. That it really works against you. It's not that being on iTunes is bad. It's that being on iTunes just for the sake of being on iTunes isn't necessarily the best way to go. It can actually be damaging.
Gotcha.
Because you have to have an orchestrated marketing campaign for things that you do. So that's one example. But anyway, I was just telling you what was involved with the free subscription. Which people can sign up at joesolo.com. Now, the Make It Big in a Box product is, for the last 8 years, I've been speaking at countless speaking engagements, everywhere from 10 different NAMM shows and the ASCAP Expo and various universities and music schools. I spoke at Canadian Music Week. I'm going back there next month. Going to be speaking at NAMM, which is where they have the Cannes Film Festival in France. And we video all these things, high quality 3-camera crew, because there's so much information that can help aspiring professionals avoid years of trial and error by getting inside information that they could only get from someone who's actually done it.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I chuckle is a lot of times you can Google online, how to get a record contract. And there's all these websites like how to make it in music by someone who never did.
Right.
And there's also literally hundreds of written tips that are very easily digestible. They're all a page or less. And so you can grab any one of these things and put to use that night to propel your career forward. And this is for musicians, artists, bands, DJs, producers, managers, really anyone who wants to be successful in the music business, because I cover all the areas of the music business that you need to know in order to be successful, regardless of what your role in it is. Now, let me tell you what I don't do. I don't go into things that you could find out on Google yourself, like how to dial in a distortion pedal, or how to set a delay up in time with your song. There's hundreds of videos and sites out there that talk about the technical aspects of recording music. What my message is about networking, about your sense of self as it relates to being in the music business, your confidence level, creativity. So I may not teach someone how to dial in a digital delay, but I might write something to inspire them to use a digital delay in ways they never thought of and come up with their own unique sounds and vibes. I also go into some of the mandatory things you need to know about where money flows from, copyrights, things of this nature. It's really important because when you walk into a room full of industry professionals, you need to be able to walk the walk and talk the talk. Now, nobody in the industry wants to work with anybody, no matter how good their music is, if they're completely ignorant of how the business works. So I go into the fundamentals of the business. I go into areas of inspiration because we all hit that wall where we feel like, oh, I just want to quit. What am I doing? And that's the time when you got to dig in. That's like at that 26 mile and the 26.2 mile marathon. So I write about techniques to break through that, tell stories about how people almost gave up, but then they stuck with it. And,
What's a story that you can share with us of that instance when they were at mile 26? What do they do to get over that hump? What's the common theme? That moment where it doesn't seem like it's worth it to go on, even if it's 26 miles in a 26.2 mile race. What are the common themes on how they get through that adversity? What do you give them to push them through? Give us some examples.
Well, my mantra is never give up, ever. I pretty much beat that in to my audience. Sometimes you got to walk away from the whole thing for a little while and get some perspective. It's a good idea to take a drive and get out of town just for the afternoon.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
It's a good idea to take a drive and get out of town just for the afternoon. If you can get maybe 100 miles away from your house, you'll get all kinds of perspective on your life and things like that. And one of the things, probably one of the best things that comes with the Make It in the Box that relates to this is not only do I share stories and anecdotes of situations where people felt that way but didn't give up, and then that was when they broke through. And I have been there myself as well, except when I started out this thing when I was 14 and I told my dad, I want to make it in music. I made the commitment for life right then and there to actually never give up. And it's easy to do things when things are easy, but the real winners are the ones who stick with things when it's not easy. Now, when I say stick with things, I mean don't give up permanently. Of course, like I say, take breaks, walk away, get perspective. But one of the things that comes with the Make It Big in a Box package, probably the best thing, is you get a 1-hour consultation with an A&R person from my music production company.
Oh, wow.
And for a
Holy
premium, you can have the hour consultation with me. Right now, we're running a special where the first 25 people who sign up for under a pre-sale will get me as their consultant for that hour. That's typically $700 I charge to do this. And in those conversations, I'm able to get to the heart of what the major frustration they have is that's keeping them back from getting to the next level, and then talk about techniques they can employ to to break through that frustration,
Right.
because that's, as humans, that's what we do. We grow, and then we hit a point where we're blocked. There's a brick wall in front of us, and we're frustrated, and I'm handing them the sledgehammer they need to break through, so to speak. And in that consultation, we also do like song analysis, where I'll listen to their music, and then I can make suggestions on like what might be some fat to trim off the song, and what are highlights that maybe could be bolstered. Or a lot of times someone will do write a really cool hook, but they won't repeat it at all. And I'm like, wait a second, that hook right there, that's your retirement money. You need to proliferate that all over the song. And I've got a saying, hooks equals checks. It's true. And a lot of times people come up with some really amazing ideas and don't realize how amazing they are. But because I'm objective, when I hear this song, I can mirror that back to them on what the song needs just to tighten up the delivery. And so we do that during the consultation, and basically try and roadmap out what their next steps are for getting the music dream that they want. Now, I can't guarantee everybody or anybody's going to make it. Nobody can, or they'd be lying to you. But what I can do is set you on a path so there's always forward motion, and have you avoid the directions that will not yield the results you want. So if someone says to me, oh, Joe, I'm a versatile artist. I do 17 different styles. I've got a 40-song demo, and I'm getting ready to send it out to every music supervisor in the land.
Right.
I'd be like, well, wait, let's talk about this approach for a second. Let's look at it from the music supervisor's standpoint. Do you think they have time to listen to all 40 of your songs? Especially if they're like trying to procure music for a TV show. And the guy would be like, yeah, but I want to show off my diversity. I go, well, yeah, but they're not interested in finding out who's diverse. They're interested in finding specific vibes for the actual scenes in their TV shows that they're working on, or their movies that they're working on, so as to compel the audience of that TV show to feel a certain way during a scene. And you sending 40 songs out of the blue trying to show off how versatile you are does not at all satisfy what they're looking for. So I teach people about the different roles in the industry and what motivates them, and how to approach a music attorney, a publisher, an A&R person, a record label president, a co-writer, a publicist. They all have separate motivations, and you have to really understand what those are so that you can navigate your way through the industry. And once you understand what those are, you have a big aha moment. We're like, oh my God, this really is a people business. This isn't just about the music. It's about character and reputation and networking and knowledge and confidence. All these things are factors in your success. And it's my job to maximize your chances of getting your music dream by giving you the armament you need so you can reach inside your tool bag whenever you need to and pull out the correct tool for the correct situation so that you advance in this industry.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff, man. Like understanding, what your reality is versus the person who has the job's reality, and trying to align those things. Yes, you can overcome them with hard work and outmaneuvering them, but you need to know where those openings are and where the hard work needs to be done. I was thinking about, so we met Joe at the NAMM show, and we love NAMM and NAMM loves us. And so we always want to support these guys. But outside of NAMM, there was a guy who was handing out his CD, And he's like, I got beats and all that kind of thing. And that's a great thing to do. You're right there in front of the music world and you're trying to hand it out. So John and I grabbed it and listened to it. And, we're not music producers, but we know quite a bit about music. And we heard it. And what we heard was the same basic hip hop sounds that you hear everywhere, And we didn't listen to the whole thing. We listened to about, I don't know, let's say 30 seconds of it. So if track one makes you sound like everybody else, that's good to show that, you look like everybody else in the gym, but the person who's working, there's something else that's missing there, right, Joe?
Well, first of all, I don't really recommend handing out CDs at conventions because, like, after I get done talking, I get 20 or 30 CDs at a minimum, CDs, disk drives, what have you, at a minimum. And, I mean, I don't have the time to listen to all those. And nobody is standing out because it's all coming to me at one big barrage. So it's better if you meet somebody that you want to get your music to, like at a music conference, to engage them in an authentic conversation and ask permission to send them some material. And then if you get a yes, then they'll be expecting it and focused on it instead of you're just one of the crowd. Now, in terms of I don't know, the generic hip hop beats, everybody, okay, the lifeblood of this business is new sounds, new vibes, new perspectives lyrically, new, fresh and new. And if you're sounding like everybody else, you're not standing out. You need your own unique signature sound. And you need your signature voice. And when I say voice, I don't just mean the sound of your voice, but also your lyrical voice. And if you're not a lyricist, then find a good one to write lyrics for you or collaborate, whatever it takes. But you want to stand out. Now, you don't want to stand out be so far out that nobody relates to you either.
True.
That won't do you any good. But you really have to have your own signature sound, and it has to be authentically you.
What if you don't know what that is? What if you don't know who you authentically are?
Well, that's a big part of my job as producer, is to synergistically work with the artist to discover and invent that. That is what I do as a producer. Usually there's a starting place stylistically, country, rock, hip hop, EDM. Usually you have a good idea of the general style that you want to go in. And I don't know, I guess as a producer, after doing this for 30,000 hours, I've got an intuition on how to get from point A to point Z. I don't really plan it out too much. I just kind of let it go and flow and just trust that it always works out. And it always works out. Not to say that I don't think about what we're going to be doing at all. As I mentioned earlier, I think a lot about it once we get going. But I'm also not so tightly tied into this blueprint that, I'm not open to new ideas during the process. A lot of times once the artist starts hearing what their music really could be, once it's professionally produced, they themselves will come up with all kinds of incredible ideas based on what they're hearing their song evolve to. That's why I take a very synergistic perspective when producing. It's not me dictating to you, do everything I tell you and thank me later. Although if that is what's needed, I can certainly do that. But the real magic resides where you have ideas, I have ideas, and they kind of get melted together and come up with these little baby ideas that were better than what either of us thought of by ourselves. That's where the magic is. And it's very satisfying to come up with that stuff. And again, that's why the relationship with you and the artists and the performers and the session musicians and your engineers and everybody you're working with is so important because it's
How
such
do
a
you
soulful
pull that off
process.
when there's so much raucous behavior in the music world? I mean, it's one thing to get old enough and outgrow that, and when it's time to work, but you're working with emerging artists a lot of times. How do you build in them that professional attitude of today, right now, we're going to work and we're going to work hard as you ever have?
Hard and fun. Quite frankly, what I charge, people tend to not want to waste their
Okay.
time.
Fair.
All right, so that's an automatic filter on who's really serious about their music. But like I said, we
Yeah.
got to have
Yeah.
fun while we're doing it. It's got to be fun. It's never going to be fun 100% of the time, but if things get really intense, I try
Yeah.
and use humor to lighten things up. Or sometimes I'll have to do something really crazy. Like if I'm okay, like last week I was in with this band. They amongst themselves were not agreeing on like anything that day. And they started breaking these little band fights. And I'm like, okay, guys, let's hold it. Just tone it down. And like I couldn't get through. So I stood up on my coffee table and started doing jumping jacks. And they're all looking at me like, what is this crazy guy doing? And I said,
Right.
okay, now that I have your attention, let's all settle down and remember this is supposed to be fun. And let's have some fun and we'll figure this out.
You know what else is fun, man? Going to Malibu and doing a retreat. Let's get into this real quick because I don't want to run out of time. Because this whole program blows me away. That I want to learn how to become a rock star. I want to learn how to get into the music industry. And you're like, well, come meet me in Malibu, and we're just going to get into it. I love this concept.
Yeah. It's called, technically it's called Joe Solo's Malibu Beach House Music Success Retreat. Starts on the next one is September 6th to 9th, 2019. And it starts on a Friday night where we have a very casual get-to-know-you party. And everyone gets to know each other. And there's room for 15 of the 30 tickets I sell. I keep it small and intimate. There's room for 15 people to sleep overnight and stay there the whole time, which is where you get the most benefit because you're like developing relationships with the other people there, and all kinds of magic happens
Yeah.
outside of the standard curriculum portions I'm doing. But anyway, so it starts on Friday with a kind of a get to know you party. A lot of times my industry buddies will stop by and hang out too. And then on Saturday, we start the actual instruction, and it's me leading the charge the whole way. Saturday afternoon, we have a panel of 7 top industry people that will be publishers and music supervisors, managers, A&R people. I'll do a panel with them, and then they'll stay, and then we have dinner with them that night so that everybody could kind of get to know them personally and maybe even start some of their own personal relationships with these people. I mean, you can't get next to a Hollywood, top Hollywood music supervisor in a day like that, where it would normally take, years of networking. And it's a real great opportunity to just get in with the people who are pretty much the gatekeepers to your dreams, and have dinner with them and chit chat with them. And I've seen a lot of artists who've come to my retreats end up getting placements in film and TV directly as a result of this. And then Sunday
I was going to say when your parents are like, you can never make a living in music, you're like, not only can you, I'm going to introduce you to the people that will fund that living.
Yeah, I don't think parents should ever say you can't make a living in music because there's an entire industry of people making a living in music. And I think it's important to note that you don't have to be a big, huge, rich Beyonce, Jay-Z size rock star to have a satisfying life doing what you love to do and making enough to pay your bills.
Yeah.
I say,
Yeah, that's true.
If you can do what you love to do and pay the bills with it, you're a success in my book. And then you build from there. And there's so many different avenues into the music industry besides just being an artist. There's manager, there's publicist, there's promoter, concert promoter,
Yeah.
attorneys, accountants, publishers, A&R people, publicists, record label executives. You can start your own record label and be your own record label executive. There's just so many things that you can do if you have a passion for being in music, in addition to actually being on the artistic side. And people who are more interested in those areas benefit just as much from the things that I do, because they learn how the industry operates and they'll learn the perspectives of the other people in the industry so they can navigate their path better. I mean, how good of a manager can you be if for an artist, if you don't understand how your artists think?
That's awesome. Tell us one more time, really quick, the whole premise behind the Malibu retreat so we can do that, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. So if you're an emerging artist and you want to write music for TV shows, for commercials, or just in terms of for entertainment value, Joe has this retreat. This is a fantastic way to meet the people that buy the music that you want to create. Joe, expand on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you meet those people, but also I'm giving all that I got to give in terms of inside information and inspiration to achieve your music goals. And the whole retreat thing, it's kind of like it's like a family vibe. I run it in such a way that everyone's really authentic and vulnerable and honest about where they are and what they want, out of this life and music. And it creates a bond between everybody. By the time we break for lunch on Saturday, everyone's like brother and sister. And that's an important part of it too, because these people become part of your network and your support team, your support network, for the rest of your life. So it's really a life-changing weekend. Change your life forever.
Yeah, meeting the people that that operate the gates to your dreams. That's saying it right there perfectly. Everybody, you can find Joe's Solo on Twitter at JoeSolo1. You can also go to his website, which is joesolo.com. Joe, what else do we need to know to get a hold of you? Obviously, they can get a hold of me and I can direct them to you, but people that want to do these things, they want to invest in their career, they want to go to Malibu and hang out with the people that are going to be their clients. How do they get a hold of you?
They can send an email to info, that's INFO, at joesolo.com, and just write a little letter on, what it is they want to do. And, someone from my team or myself will get back to them and go from there. What I don't want people to do is send me an email with their music and no explanation. When people do that, I'm like, okay, so what do you want from me? Now, I assume they want me to listen to their music, get blown away, and decide to donate hundreds of hours of my life for no pay to make them a big, rich rock star, and that's not going to happen. But I always appreciate a little history on what they're trying to do and maybe where they need some help and a phone number, and then whether they need consultation or they want to make it big in a box, or the retreat, or they want to discuss doing production together. We'll figure it out. Sometimes it's a combination of those things. And we'll we'll have an initial consultation, which I do charge for, and then from there they'll walk out not only knowing what they want to do with me, but they're going to get all their questions answered about the industry and walk out just a lot better prepared to move forward. And that's pretty much how I operate it. And right now, with the Make It Big in a Box product, we're actually selling it for half price. It's normally $2,000. We're selling it for $948
Oh, damn.
on the website at joesolo.com. And you could pay that all at once, or you could spread it out into 12 payments of $79 a month. Makes it easier on your cash flow. So you were really talking about Starbucks money here. Anyway,
No, seriously. I mean, if you're going to get into this business, one of the reasons why I want to have Joe on is one, we want to support NAMM. Two, I've heard him talk and I can see the passion. Three, like, this isn't a thing where you send an email off to somebody and they ignore you. Joe's an actual person. I talk to him regularly, and I want to support people that want to find their dream in music. And Joe is a guy that literally does this for a living. So I wanted to be able to share this because it's just so many great things that are connected in doing this kind of work. Joe absolutely will help you. And I don't know how many places have a quality program like this, but here's one of them. And if you think that you want to get into music or your kid wants to get into music, go no further. Start right here and see about what Joe does. And I defy you not to love him because he's such a great dude. Joe, thank you so much for coming on.
my pleasure. I appreciate your time.